Hey there, have you ever been working hard, eating clean, doing all the vitamins and supplements, but still feeling tired, foggy, shortness of breath, or just like your energy just plummets? Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk about two very specific vitamin nutrients that active and athletic people tend to be more deficient in than your average person. Now, before we dive into that, I do have a free guide in the description below of the top 3 functional labs I recommend for every active person, athlete, and fitness enthusiast that I guarantee you your doctor is not running, but will give you the answers to a lot of things that can be holding you back from your workouts, fat loss, performance, hormone health, and all the key markers you need. You can grab that guide in the description below. Okay, so let's dig into why active men and women tend to burn through iron and B12 a lot faster than the average person, and how you can tell if this might be a deficiency that's affecting you. First off, most doctors are going to be checking just baseline iron levels. There's actually something very specific that has to be tested, which is your ferritin levels, and you also have iron binding capacity, which is your body's ability to use that iron. But normally, if you are deficient or borderline deficient, you're going to want to take a look at the ferritin, but you typically also have an underlying B12 and vitamin C deficiency, because vitamin B12 and C are important for helping with the absorption of iron from things like the foods you eat and your nutrients. So let's talk about the science, performance, overall hormone health with B12 and iron, and what you're probably missing from your doctor's labs or your basic lab works, and how all this comes together. So when you're active, if you're running, lifting and doing HIIT training, CrossFit, or if you're just walking every single day, even just fast-paced living, stress, you're not just going to be burning through more calories, you're also going to be burning through a lot more key micronutrients, which is one of the things that people tend to miss. They focus on macronutrients with carbs, fats, and protein, but they miss very key micronutrients that are important for fueling and converting all of that food you eat into ATP, your energy source. So B12 and iron are kind of like the spark plugs and fuel lines to your body. So if you have no B12, there are so many symptoms when you are low and deficient in B12. I mean, some of those things can just be poor energy, brain fog, mood swings. You can actually have some nerve stuff going on. With iron and B12, women who tend to have heavier periods usually have some sort of iron deficiency that shows up more on ferritin than it does on just a basic iron test. So there's a lot of things for that. If you're struggling with low iron, you're constantly feeling cold, your cells can't carry oxygen efficiently, so you might barely be working out but feeling that like shortness of breath, or you're having a hard time to breathe, or you're struggling with crashing, under recovering, you're losing your stamina. And it's interesting because we've actually done some studies on depression and anxiety, and people, this is not all encompassing, but a lot of the people that are struggling with depression and anxiety or struggling with energy throughout the day have underlying B12 and iron deficiencies that are not showing up on standard blood work. So this is why I recommend in my program with active men and women that I work with, we always run 3 specific functional labs that are very specific to the micronutrient needs, inflammation markers, gut health markers for an active and athletic person, so that we can identify if you do have something like a B12 or iron or vitamin C deficiency that is affecting your overall mental health, hormone health, and energy production, fat loss, and metabolic health. So again, if you want to check out the guide I have about the 3 labs and the ones specifically that I use in my program, that's in the description below. So let me explain to you how this actually works and what happens in your body with B12. So vitamin B12 helps support red blood cell production and brain function. It's essential, like I said, for nerve health and energy conversion. When you're training, you need more to meet that demand. And it's interesting because when you're training more and you're active a lot more often than the regular person, you have higher levels of inflammation. So your body burns through B12 and iron a lot faster because it is trying to make more red blood cells in order to help repair that inflammation and repair that muscle breakdown. So a lot of active people, even though, and this is a whole other conversation and argument, you can be eating healthy, you can be getting all of your protein, your carbs, and your fats in, you can be taking all the vitamins and supplements, but active people have very different needs than a sedentary person. And even if you're not vegan, you can still be struggling with a B12 and iron deficiency that is drastically going to be affecting your overall health, mental, physical, hormone health, performance, workouts, and things like that. With iron carries oxygen in your bloodstream. The more you sweat, train, and build muscle, the more iron your body is going to burn through, especially if you are female. If you're female, you're plant-based, or you are going through periods of heavy training cycles. So if you're doing a lot of volume, your body's going to burn through a lot more iron and B12 to take care of that inflammation. But also, these are both water-soluble nutrients. So that means that these nutrients do not get stored in your body with fat. They get depleted very easily through sweating, urine, stress also burns through it really well. So it's one of those things that you do have to replenish in. Even a little bit of a deficiency, which would not show up on basic labs and blood work, but even a mild deficiency in B12, iron, or vitamin C can cause things like poor mental focus, anxiety, slower recovery, higher inflammation, sleep issues, issues with regulating body temperature, shortness of breath, and the frustrating feeling of like, I am doing everything right, but I just feel like crap. That would be something that's not going to show up on what your traditional doctor is looking for. So why do doctors miss this, and what do you do about it? Well, here's the truth. And I talk about this a lot in all my videos. I talk about it a lot with clients and newsletters. Most doctors are trained in looking for disease and dysfunctions and illnesses, not optimizing your health. Not only that, most doctors are working with the average population who has chronic illnesses and chronic issues, but they are not necessarily trained in somebody who is active or athletic, who has very different demands on their body, very different needs. So you could be walking around with low B12 or iron, and they run all your blood work and they're like, your labs look totally fine, and then you're wondering why you feel totally off. Fine is not what you want. They're making sure you're not going to die or nothing like emergency is happening. But when you are athletic and active, you have to look much deeper to identify these root causes. So, and this is exactly why I created my program, PR Fuel. It is a highly personalized program for active men and women who want to optimize their hormones, fix their metabolism, fix their gut health, their mental health, and optimize their overall health using real functional data. I was struggling for a long time with, I had integrative functional medicine doctors, and then I knew sports nutrition, my background in fitness, personal training, weight loss, and metabolic health, but there was nobody that really was bridging that gap between, but I'm an active athletic person, but I care a lot about integrative functional health and I want the natural approach. That's why I created PR Fuel, is to provide that integrative health solution for all these things for active men and women, because we do have very different needs. So that's also in the description. If you're interested in learning more about that program, you can check that out. So let's talk about some of the signs and symptoms of how to tell if you are deficient or maybe borderline struggling with a deficiency in something like B12 or iron. Some of the common symptoms that I see for women: if you have very heavy cycles, menstrual cycles, very fatigued, you just cannot get any energy, more than likely you are going to end up having low iron alongside B12 vitamin C deficiency. Iron on your basic blood work is not going to show that. We're looking more at your ferritin markers and a couple other key markers as well. That's one thing. Another symptom you may have if you're struggling with a vitamin B12 or iron deficiency is shortness of breath during workout. And I'm not talking about shortness of breath because you're out of shape. I'm talking more so when you've barely even started doing anything and you're like, man, like, why am I having such a hard time breathing? If you do not have enough iron and B12, your body struggles to produce enough oxygen to meet the energy demands on your body. So that's another huge thing. Another common symptom I see when working with clients is brain fog, or even just feeling like low mood, melancholy. And part of this is, again, there's not enough oxygen getting to your brain because we do not have the right nutrients your body needs in order to produce the oxygen in blood cells in order to do that. A couple other minor things, restlessness, tingling in your hands, a lot of stuff nerve related. Those are usually going to be indications of like B vitamin markers or iron. And like I've said, I see it all the time in active and athletic people, fitness enthusiasts who are just constantly like working out and going through that inflammation process and not recovering and always on the go. It's that like restless anxiety, nerve stuff that really, for me, being somebody in integrative health, signals like we've probably got some B vitamin deficiencies going on. And I would say that your typical multivitamin or B complex is not going to cut the demand of what you would need as an athletic person. And I have seen this on so many labs where I have an active man or an active woman come to me and they're showing me all the supplements that they're taking, and then they go through my program and we run all their key micronutrient labs, their inflammation labs, their hormone panels, gut panels, and none of that stuff is changing any of those numbers. And the biggest reason is because your average multivitamin and your average supplement and B complex and vitamin C out there is formulated for your average human, not for somebody who has the demands of like a high performer or an athletic person. So you have to keep that in mind too. And this is why testing is so important, and one size fits all programs don't work, because you cannot expect what works for somebody who sits at a 9-to-5 job and never exercises is going to be a sufficient amount of dosage for you who is sweating all the time, on your feet, you're on the go, your brain is thinking, you're type A. Two totally different needs, two very different physiological responses to things that you need real data and real lab testing to show where exactly your body might be struggling. So if that sounds like you, get the guide, check out your markers, get real data specific to what your body needs. Most doctors don't really even test for this stuff. Things like homocysteine or ferritin, which all this is way more active than just your B12 levels or a basic iron panel. And I know so many people have come to me and they're like, well, they ran my B12 and my B12 was like, okay, it was a little bit low. Well, that's a water-soluble vitamin. First off, your blood levels are always going to keep you at a baseline. What is running through your blood versus what is running through a cellular level is very different, because cellular things are tested through saliva and urine. That shows us the nutrients that are actually bioavailable to your organs and the rest of your body. Your blood is kind of using up, like, this is all we got, there's nothing in reserve. It's not showing what your organs and everything else can actually use. So that's one of the reasons this gets missed a lot. And I mean, when you finally get this right, you really do start to feel more energized. You have more endurance in your workouts. Your sleep is better. Your hormones are better. You feel more calm. Your mood is better. I mean, for me personally, once I started doing all this testing and I stopped relying on old, outdated, one-size-fits-all protocols and advice, everything changed for me. I had more energy. I was recovering faster. Even now, I was joking, but not joking. The older I'm getting, the stronger I'm getting. And it's not necessarily because I am like changing how hard I'm training. It's because I have finally gotten my nutrients, my nutrition, my supplements, my recovery, and all that down through doing these tests, because I could not find anybody who could find the root cause for somebody like myself who's active and athletic. So that's why I'm very passionate about this. Especially things like midday crashes, anxiety, struggled with anxiety for a really long time, not knowing that a lot of it came from nutrient deficiencies simply by being always on the go and stressed all the time, both physical stress and mental stress in general. But yeah, this is the core of the program I have, PR Fuel. It is personalized, tailored nutrition, supplements, training, all based on your hormone panels, your micronutrient panels, and really just identifying your goals and needs that are personal to you. So to wrap all this up, if you are active, and by active, if you're working out, if you're going to the gym, if you're walking every single day, if you're playing any kind of sport regularly that you are stressing, physical stress, or if you are in a high stress situation, you need to know your B12 and iron status. Like I said, most docs aren't checking this. More importantly, for your overall health, because of how important these are in things like your Krebs cycle, your ATP production, but nerve health, brain health, mental health, all those things. So number one, you need to get that checked. You need to get the right markers checked that I've mentioned in this video. Number two, download the free lab guide. It'll walk you through the 3 specific labs I use with clients in my PR Fuel program to go over all these things of what you really need to be testing if you're active or athletic. And then number 3, if you want hands-on help optimizing your hormones, nutrition, metabolic panels, gut health, and mental health, and really getting the data on yourself so you can take control back over your health and not have to guess and Google every symptom. That is what my program PR Fuel is all about, and where we can make that happen. I would love for you to apply, or even just talk to you about your goals and see if there's a way that I can help you. All that is in the description below. But you have to understand, if you don't take anything but one thing from this, one size fits all programs and one size fits all supplements and formulas and macros and workouts. If you are active and athletic and focused on integrative health and optimizing your health using functional approaches and holistic protocols, you need real personalized data, and you need to at least get the information on your own body so that you know what you're starting with and where you might be off a little bit so that you can support your body best and to fuel and feel your personal best. So check out some of these other videos. Check out the description that has all the links that I mentioned, and be sure, if you have not already, subscribe, and I'll see you in the other videos.